Hey everyone, welcome back to the Acoustic Shop, your place for all things acoustic. Everything that is acoustic is here, and I am here with my co-host and also big brother John. And today we're going to be talking about this new mandolin, a new mandolin for me. I'm unfamiliar with these ones, so we're going to talk about all the specs, all the special features of it, some of the history of it, give it kind of our own rating, and we'll let you know what we think of it. Is the Iwamoto, and I'm going to say that wrong, I'm sure a few times this video, Iwamoto F5 Mandolin. Welcome back to the channel. As always, if you would like to hear this mandolin played in its entirety without all the talking, we did a full performance video that is available. There's a link down in the description below, as well as tone samples at the end of the video where you can jump straight to that, and that's also in the description below or on the little cards that help you jump straight to that. But we were talking about the Iwamoto F5 mandolin. Get right into the specs on this one. It prices out at $49.49.99. This is the F-style version. I'm not sure yet whether he makes A-style, but I assume he probably does.
By the way, I don't believe that is the retail price of this mandolin, but that is what is being consigned at this particular time.
Its current price is $45.99 or $45.49.99. Thank you for that correction.
I just wanted to point that out.
It is the Adirondack spruce top on this, as well as a flame maple back and sides, along with a maple neck, ebony head plate on this, and tortoise binding all the way around, front, back, sides, neck, headstock. It does have an ebony bridge, a radius fretboard, adjustable bridge on there as well with the scooped fretboard extension. And we're unsure about some of the other specs because this is a new instrument to us. We need to do a little bit more digging to find this. Wasn't readily available. Underneath that pearl truss rod cover, I assume that that's a single action truss rod. It has a bone nut. And then this has a tone bar bracing inside of it, nitro finish, nitro cellulose gloss finish on the entire mandolin. And it comes with a hard shell case. Also, the Shirtler pickup is pre-installed in this mandolin.
You can tell by the blue
little strap button there as well. So very nice instrument. James tailpiece on this with Evo fret wire as well. Was really impressed when we got the photos of it to check out and get it in here on consignment. And tone-wise, it's got a really good sound and feel to it.
Definitely has that modern mandolin sound going on here. So.
Yeah, I was impressed for a brand that I haven't heard of. Like we mentioned earlier, it is made in Tokyo, Japan by Tokisha Iwamoto. That's it.
It's up to you.
I'm going to butcher that, I'm sure. Tokisha Iwamoto out of Tokyo, Japan. And his overall brand, I guess he builds other instruments as well, is under the Acoustic World brand. And he builds guitars, mandolins, ukes. Some of the cool mandolins are much more modern with strange points and loses the scroll. Cool. Some very cool designs. Blue, yeah. I saw a blue one in there.
What?
So I'm kind of interested in maybe reaching out and seeing if we can get some other instruments in here. Because overall, the playability of it, the tone of it, I'm actually really impressed. And we'll kind of go through our rating system of this real quickly. And then
do that.
We'll talk about some of the things we like and don't like about it. So on a scale of 1 to 5 in a like price range, and again, I think new, these are probably going for around $7,000, I'm guessing.
Probably a good guess.
So in that like price range, which is kind of in that boutique builder level, tone-wise,
this reminds me a lot of the Hein mandolins that we've seen in here in the past, in looks as well as in that tone palette. So for me, in a $5,000 or $6,000 price range, I find this to find in a solid 4. It's a little bit dark to me. It's missing a little bit of the high end, but that would probably be where I would place it.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think it's got a really nice chop to it. I'm going to put this at a 4.25 because it's a step up from a lot of options out there. I think there's a little bit of that surprise factor that I wasn't familiar with it, and I think it's a really good sounding instrument. Setup and playability, John. This is a place that I think is really, and it's hard to say with mandolins because they are so easily adjusted, and this is coming in used. It's hard to say if anything's been done with it, but this is close to where I would have my action, maybe just a little bit high. So I'd lower that adjustable bridge just a touch from where it's at right now. But at that first fret, I think setup overall, I would give this a 4.5 in the setup.
I was looking at it earlier today. I think there's some issues with some of the fretwork. It's not quite as even as probably I would like to see out of a mandolin at this price point. But it is pretty darn good. So for me, it's right at a solid 4.
Perfect. All right, then we get to build quality. This is where it's got a few things that are lacking on it, and that we've talked about this before. That's the difficulty of being kind of a smaller builder, is you got to be a master of all the different trades that are in building one of these. That includes carving it, shaping it, binding it, gluing it, bracing it, adjusting the tone of the top, and then you get into the really nitty-gritty of the binding, and then finish work are all those most pristine and difficult things to really master. So that's where I'm seeing a few things. The selection of the color of the tortoise binding is kind of it's not my favorite. It almost looks like the Martin pickguard material that they're using.
Fender picks.
Or Fender picks. It's got a real fake looking tortoise, and not some of the nicer stuff I've seen. And it also looks like that caused some separation along most of the mandolin, along the edges of that binding. So it's one of those finer details that I think probably get better over time, or as you bring on more team members that can kind of focus on that specific thing. The sunburst on the back is gorgeous. Like the actual finish work of the coloring and the finish in general, I think they nailed. It really is only the binding that has been a little bit of a problem. And Martin, we still get some of the new Martins that are having those same binding issues. So I guess I can't really knock that too much. But so for overall build quality, in general, I think it's built very well. The binding's the only thing that stands out to me. I'm going to give it a 4.
I'm going to actually score it right at that 4 level as well. There's definitely some stuff that I don't, that is not as clean as it could be. But I can tell where he's going with this, and it definitely is better than some. This truly, to me, is a player's mandolin, and less of, one of those super clean, retail style mandolins.
Which again, those start to get up in that $10,000 and $12,000 and $14,000 range. So
absolutely,
I think a 4 is a very fair score for that. And then we get to the aesthetics of it. I think it's got a very traditional look. Again, the only knock I would give it, I kind of like the blonde top on this one. It just has a nice color to it. The back is just gorgeous. And then the scoop fretboard and the inlay on the headstock, very traditional appearance to it. I like the appearance of it, except for that color of the binding. That's the only thing I'm giving it a knock on for that.
Really hard.
So again, I'm going to give it a 4.5 on that because the binding is somewhat minimal compared to the rest of the aesthetic of it.
I hate to do this, but I'm going to go a little bit lower. I personally don't care for the toner color of that, and it's got a little bit blotchy in that top, especially with such a beautiful sunburst. If it weren't for the top and the binding, that it doesn't seem to connect to me as well. So I'm going to give it a 3.75.
That is a legitimate concern, so I'm with you. I understand. And then the Shoppe Sustainable, we are just discovering this brand, brand new to us, so we can't confirm one way or another. We're going to go ahead and err on the side of caution. We can't confirm the sustainability efforts that they're taking as far as harvesting of the tone woods. So we will plant 5 trees for every one of these cell. We don't normally do that on the used instruments in general, but it's something we're going to be bringing probably in this next year.
Sure.
And then finally we get to the overall value. And that's a tough call because part of the problem
at its current price.
At its current price,
I think it's actually very valuable. I do think it sounds really good. It's an overall player's mandolin. I think it performs tone-wise and playability close to some of the high-end mandolins that we've had in the shop, especially some of these small builders ones. But it just has some little things that just don't make it to that top level.
I've been getting the heat online from a lot of the people that watch the channel about the price of mandolins. I don't control the price, folks. I can't help it.
Didn't?
But they are an expensive, time-consuming instrument to build. And then people are like, well, you got to have an American-made one, and then they're mad at the price of an American-made one. This does come from Japan. It's not necessarily an import because he is just a builder, and then selling some of them over here. I don't think that anybody's really importing them as far as a mass level. So it is still kind of a smaller boutique build, but it's not a U.S.-built one. So if you're comparing to other U.S.-built mandolins to find that overall value, I think it takes a couple points off the total. When you could get a nice U.S. Weber or something in that range for a similar price range. So I'm going to give it a 3.75.
See, I'm going to go a little higher than that. Like I said, I think this tone-wise falls close to some of these small builders that we're seeing in the 8s and 10 range. And at this price point, I think there's actually a good value going on here. So I'm going to give it a 4.5.
All right. Well, that gives you the scores. Then we're going to tell you, we're going to talk quickly who this mandolin might be for, in our opinion. You mentioned it. I think it's a player's mandolin. It's not kind of a collectible boutique instrument that you're going to hang in your parlor. This is something meant to be taken out to jam
You
sessions.
have a parlor.
If I had a parlor, it would be covered with mandolins that are just hanging there. But yeah, it does have a great tone, and I think it would turn a lot of heads in a jam session. People are like, what's
What
that
is
mandolin?
that?
What does
Yeah,
that say on the headstock?
absolutely.
So yeah, I think this is a player's mandolin for somebody that is pretty maybe invested in playing the mandolin. It's not like a complete beginner one. It is definitely almost a pro level, but for the player out there that really wants to get a good
It
tone and
doesn't
playability.
worry about those little intricate details and those kind of deals.
Or the
in
name that's on the
finished
headstock.
work. Yeah, that's
So
what I would.
definitely a
find too.
player's mandolin. How does it sound overall? It's got that more modern, deep tone to it. It's got that. The chop on it's pretty huge.
Really dark, really round. That's what I would say on this one.
Yeah.
So, cons of this one is definitely some of the finish work, the details, all that kind of stuff. He's not quite
If he
up to
called
some of
me
those.
up and asked me my opinion, my really only big gripe would have been the binding on it.
That
Find a
binding's
better
tough.
binding, or
That's a tough one.
and I don't think the material was quite up to snuff either, because I think it shrunk at a slightly different rate. Again, Martin uses that same kind of ugly looking binding, and I'm not sure why, and it shrinks on them too. So maybe he got it from the same source. I don't know.
Maybe that could very well
But
be.
other than that, I really don't have many cons of it. It's a really good playing and sounding instrument. I like what they did with the fretboard extension scooped and the headstock, the purfling and the overall inlay up there. And I could play this one for hours and really enjoy it, I think.
There you go.
Well, John, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did, discovering
I
a new
did.
brand of
You
mandolins.
know, there's nothing that makes
There's
me
nothing
happier
like
than
discovering
listening
something that
to
other
you
people
play
already
mandolin.
knew about and then pretending, hey, I discovered this new country. It's called America. No, I'm sorry. I went over a little history lesson there. Yeah, discovering new instruments, that's a very exciting thing. This is a really cool one. There are some great boutique builders out there in the mandolin world, and I've compiled my list of the top 10, my favorites. If they didn't make the list, it's not because they didn't deserve it. It's because there's
they
too
don't
many really
belong.
good builders out there, and I couldn't fit them all on a list. And if you'd like to watch that and tell me what you think I got wrong, please do so right here. Follow this link. It was a lot of fun to listen to my favorite mandolin builders.